Hi there, Colin. Thank you for your time. So we just heard from former Prime Minister John Howard saying that this government has failed in terms of preventing the spread of anti-Semitism. Do you agree?
Look, they certainly haven't taken it seriously like they should have, and in many ways, their appeasement of the appalling incitement to hatred that we've seen in Australia escalate, rabid anti-Semitism, the failure to take strong action against it, and their one-sided, biased approach to Israel through this current Gaza war has created an environment where anti-Semitism actually has become normalized. So yes, I mean, Prime Minister John Howard usually gets it right, and he did on this occasion as well.
And what is IJAC going to do in terms of preventing tragedies like this and preventing the spread of anti-Semitism? We heard a lot of energetic words from the Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism, Gillian Segal. Do you think that report will be now pushed through a lot faster?
Well, look, we've been, in the government about what's going on here and the escalation of anti-Semitism. We've documented it. We've pleaded with the government together with our colleagues in the Jewish community and, frankly, in the broader community as well. And their failure to actually address this spiraling hatred and the consequences are there for all to see in what we witnessed, the tragedy we witnessed at Bondi on Sunday. And so one of the things that we call on the government to do now is to look again, for starters, at Gillian Segal's report, the Special Envoy for Anti-Semitism, who quite very properly, and they did appoint, but she presented a report 6 months ago. And while there's been funding of some items here and there, welcome so far as it goes, the main thrust really of her report tackle the sources of anti-Semitism have not been acted on. And this is 6 months. And so we call on the government to look at her recommendations again. They straddle a range of areas to deal, the hatred that brewed and sprung up, in our universities and our culture, the imbalance to a large extent in the media, the attack on Jewish businesses and homes and institutions, the burning of synagogues, the doxing of individuals. And she's made a number of recommendations which should be the focus of what the government's doing now. Further gun reform, okay, no one would object to it. It's necessary, but it's not sufficient. It's not the central issue here. As it was just said in your take, the terrorists will use anything to pursue their nefarious aims. And the source of their focus now it should be on addressing those components of our society which have led to this explosion of anti-Semitism. We've had recommendations for activity and efforts reform in the university sector. A judicial inquiry, for example, would be necessary. We've had calls for looking at prescribing other organisations like Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is prescribed in a number of other countries. We've had calls for the application of laws we already have, displaying the flags of prescribed terrorist organisations in Australia with Hamas or Hezbollah and so on. So the appeasement, the indifference to the explosion of this incitement to hatred and incitement to violence, which ultimately, inevitably, as we said, would lead to violence and murder and the terrorism that we've just seen. We need action on those fronts. We need action from state governments as well to tighten up their laws in so many different respects. So yes, we, together with our colleagues in the Jewish community, but in the broader community, are looking for focused and effective action. It's to take back Australia, because while this is an attack on the Jewish community, it's an attack on Australia in general and the values that we cherish and want to maintain of an open, tolerant, multicultural society with an
Do you think
understanding. that your responsibilities in this country override any rights that you might bring with you. Diversity up to a point is fine, but if what you're doing conflicts with the core values of our democratic society, unacceptable. And other recommendations like looking at visa holders if they engage in anti-Semitic activity, nefarious activity.
Absolutely. I think those recommendations should definitely be pushed through. Thanks so much for that, Colin. Colin Rubenstein, Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council Executive Director.
Thank you.